Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here and you're about to watch Lacrosse Talk, NLL style, here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. This show can be seen on every app you possibly could think of to watch. And why don't we get to it right now? And we'll start by saying our guest host here, as usual, my partner in crime here is Gary Groob, and we have a very special guest, the coach, Ed Comeau of the Georgia Swarm in the National Lacrosse League. Ed, how you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for taking the time to be here. We really appreciate it. And as always, what we're doing here is we're trying to help people get a feel for the game more than just the scores. We want to talk about what lacrosse means to everybody. And the first question we always ask is, what brought you to lacrosse?
Well, I mean, I hate to say that I've been involved in it for over 50 years now, but I guess that dates me. So, yeah, I got involved like a lot of people through, youth lacrosse, and my dad signed us up. My dad was not an athlete, didn't know anything about sports, but his place of employment, there was a gentleman there who was starting a lacrosse league, and I had an older brother, and he signed my brother up. And then when I was old enough, at 5 years old, he signed me up, and that's how I got into it. So it was, it's not I'm kind of a first generation lacrosse player in my family, and it's not there was no long history of any lacrosse at all. My dad knew nothing about the game, and yeah, that was it. We got into it, and it's been a passion for over 50 years for me.
It's interesting that you say that because most of the people we have on have a father who played, have an older brother that played, have neighbors or friends that played. Um, I think the game we need more like that have your history, right? A lot of first timers. What was the attraction to you as a first timer? What drew you? What did you like the most?
I think playing. I mean, I was playing hockey too, and I mean, I just liked sports, but lacrosse was something that I thought it was something that you could improve on your own, and you could go to the wall and throw the ball off the wall, and it would automatically make you a better player, and it was something that I like to do. And I was fortunate enough when I was young. We had some teams I was on. We had some success. So success always helps create some passion. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's one of the challenges right now for our sport as it grows. There's the people that are passionate about lacrosse, but we have to bring in the non-lacrosse people and really find a way to not only attract them to the game, but grow to love the game like those of us that are already in it do. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think for a lot of young athletes, whether they're boys or girls, getting into lacrosse, it's a great community. I find we're a growing community, but we're not we're not in the millions, right? We're in the thousands, and
Mhm.
so it's almost like a fraternity, or a small group where when I always joke, when you're walking in the mall and you see someone with a lacrosse shirt on, you kind of, hey, you give them the nod, hey, like hey brother, like like it's the knowingness of, hey, you're in the sport. And I think everyone's goal is to, we always talk about growing the game, hashtag grow the game. But growing the game is not just growing the game internally; it's growing the game externally from people that aren't already involved. It's great that my kids play, and a lot of guys on the team that have kids that their kids are playing. But we have to attract the people that have no ties to lacrosse at this point, and that's the challenge, and that's what we continue to try to strive to do.
Great general answer. Let's get into the part I really like, and Gary likes to delve into. This is your life part of the program. Gary, why don't you get it started?
No, we
Is there
had
any is there
we
any
had,
background music or to this, or no?
Your grade three teacher's out next.
Right.
then we'll get into what's my line. But We had Sean Ferris on, a confidant of yours for many, many, many years, and he was talking about the early days in Hamilton and Burlington. And let's talk a little bit about your beginnings and junior and all the way through.
Yeah, I grew up in Hamilton, so I played all my minor in Hamilton, and then junior, junior A in Hamilton, which then became, I think we called it Bay Area, which was the Hamilton Burlington group. So it was, and I played. Interestingly enough, I played rep all the way up until my first year of midget, and I got cut from the rep team, and I went back to play house league, and it was a real turning point for me. I was almost ready to quit, and it was very upsetting. And oddly enough, our the coach of that team is a very famous person who now is employed by the NLL, is Don Koharski.
Wow.
He was living in Hamilton at the time, and Don was a real big lacrosse guy, which nobody knew. He was refereeing in the NHL then, and I got cut from the team and ended up going to house league, and it was a miserable year, but I stuck with it, and then the next year I went back and was able to kind of be the last guy on the midget team in my second year, and we ended up going on to win a national championship that year, and then next year I played intermediate lacrosse. A lot of the guys I played with were up playing junior, but I played intermediate, and it was a great experience for me. It gave me an opportunity to really grow as a player, and then after that, played 4 years of junior A in Hamilton, and right at the end of the trade deadline, I got traded to Etobicoke to go play there because they were going to be in the playoffs and we weren't. So, yeah, it was a great junior career. I met a lot of great friends. That's how I met Sean Ferris through junior lacrosse, and we've been friends for since we've been 17, 18 years old. So it's I always tell people too, one of the great things about sport in general is the power of friendship. And I've told this story a lot. You go through grade school, you go through high school, you go through university, and I have a few friends through all those phases, but the best friends I have in life came through sports. And I say that to my kids all the time. I say that to the kids at McMaster. When we get together at McMaster, I help coach there and been involved in that program from the start. I always I say to guys, look around. Some of these guys that you're standing here with today, you're going to be going to their weddings. They're going to be going to your wedding. You're going to be godfather to their kids. Like it's so sports so powerful. So and again, lacrosse has given a lot to me. It's given me great opportunities, great friendships, and we all owe a debt, and that debt is trying to help grow the game and do what we can to make people aware of what a great sport it is.
Now you touched on McMaster. Let's talk about that because you started out there playing for them. You helped found the entire program, being in there from the beginning, and wound up coaching there. And 23 years later, with a national championship in 2010. Let's talk about that journey because that's a huge part of our Canadiana now too, right?
Oh, for sure. And when I was in high school, there was a few guys getting scholarships. Like I played with Peter Follows and Mark Follows, and they both went to Harvard and were playing lacrosse at Harvard, and a few other guys in various schools. But it was not like it was now where almost all the top junior A kids are getting scholarships. Back then, it was really few and far between. And primarily because we weren't playing a lot of field lacrosse here, and the whole knowingness of how to make that happen was difficult. But when I went to university at McMaster, and while I was there, we'd meet some other people, and there was Terry Bolin was there, who was someone I knew from playing against him in Whitby, and Andy Proney was there, and a few other guys that were really good players, and a guy by the name of Andrew Strecker was kind of leading it, and I was kind of right there with him, and we kind of got the team going. In 1986, we started with a spring tournament. We actually played at the old Overwind Stadium in Hamilton, and that was we had some meetings there, and that was the beginning of our league. That we called it UFLA back then, the Ontario University Field Lacrosse Association, and I think we had 6 teams to start with, and we kind of grew from there. And we actually won when I was a player in 1987. We won the championship, and then I graduated in the spring of '88 and kind of took over coaching. And yeah, was there for the whole time. And 2010 we won a national championship. I thought that was a good time to kind of step away. My kids were young, and with the NLL involvement, it's always a long season. So it was kind of one of those things that I had to kind of pick and choose, and I stayed involved. And one of the things I'm most proud of the McMaster is the fact that we started an alumni network there over 20 years ago, and our alumni network's really strong, and they help fund the program, and we got a lot of great alumni who've contributed over the years, and we make it really clear to the players that are on the team now. We say, hey, like, you're having this opportunity because others before you have contributed, and we expect you to do the same. So it's really I think it's a great legacy that we've created, and really helps that program continue. So, and it's great. And then my son's actually, we talk about generational. My son is actually at McMaster now playing the last couple of years. He's at McMaster, so I've kind of been back helping. I said I'm going to be there anyway. I might as well be part of it. So Jason Talevy, who's the head coach, graciously brought me back in, and it's great working with the young student athletes, and McMaster is such a great school too. We have we may not have the best lacrosse team in the world, but our alumni, doctors, lawyers, nurses, teachers, CEOs. We have an astronaut in our graduating class. Like it's amazing the level of education that the school provides, and we've got great young men that we get to work with. So it's a lot of fun, and really proud of my involvement with McMaster.
The picture of university sports now, I think it was more important back then because there weren't as many opportunities for athletes in a lot of sports, especially lacrosse at that time.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely like there was, like I said, I mean, I can't think of more than 5 or 6 guys in our whole junior A league that were playing on lacrosse scholarships, a few hockey scholarships, but lacrosse just wasn't there. And I think, again, a lot of credit to a lot of these schools, and most of the schools that got started up, it wasn't the school itself. It was some lacrosse friendly people at the schools, like students that helped organize it. At Brock, you had Johnny Meridian and Tim Sawicki, and Brian Lemon, who's the vice president of lacrosse operations. He played against Brian at Brock, and all so many different schools. It was really the leadership of the student athletes that got it going. And at one point at McMaster, we were they said, hey, you can have a team, but you can't call yourself the Marauders because you're not an official team, and you can't practice on campus. We would actually practice at the Oval beside campus. So yeah, there was a lot of perseverance involved, and I think a lot of great people involved in operating the team and the leagues over the years. And now I think our league is, I really think it's a model league of field lacrosse in Canada. Like I really believe it's, and allowing NLL players to play, you see the quality of play is so good, and there's so many players playing in our league that are using it as a training camp before they start their NLL season. So the league's phenomenal. The organization's great, and we hope we continue to grow it.
Well, even when you first started it, really, you're talking about '86. It wasn't that far removed from the Miracle field thing in England with Stan Coggerton scoring in double overtime. So that was already on the minds, and you had the same mindset because it was a bunch of box guys playing field and using that idea and learning as you go along.
Well, 100%. There was no field strategy involved in it. It was purely box lacrosse outside. Like there wasn't a whole lot of, hey, let's do this. And there was a couple guys, there was, a few guys that came through like Welland Notre Dame that had a high school program, and there was a few high school teams. So they actually, maybe had some coaching that understood it. But for the most part, we were we were very much learning on the fly and just trying to incorporate the box lacrosse stuff. And the other thing in '86 as well too was the world games were actually in Toronto that year. So
Mhm.
the World Championship. So we were able to, go watch those. I remember going with some of the guys from our team to watch that, and that gave us kind of a taste of, wow, this is really cool, and seeing some of these, this elite level players from around the world. So yeah, it was really in the early stages of growth of field lacrosse in Canada, and I think, as you alluded to, the World Championships in '78 kind of helped spur some of the the high school teams and some of the senior teams. There's a few, Niagara had a team, a few others. The Blue Knights, always seem to have a team, but really, I think the University League is really now the pinnacle of field lacrosse in the province for anyone at the university age or that age.
Right. Now, you've coached at all levels of lacrosse. We've had a lot of coaches on, former coaches, present day coaches, and they all say the same thing: is that club level and above, we're doing great. Things are really moving. At the grassroots level, what do you think needs to be done to push more kids towards this?
Yeah, I think, and I've spoke to a number of, one of the great things about the guys being involved in the guys in the game right now being involved is that they have young kids. So, I'll drop a few names like, Dan Dawson and Brody Merrill and Sandy Chapman and Billy Greer and Mike Poulin. And they're seeing what a lot of us have seen for a while, is that at the youngest levels, contact in box lacrosse is just not, it's not necessary. It's not conducive to growth. And, Mike Poulin made a pitch at the OLA annual general meeting this year to remove it in, I think, the U7 category. They wanted to try to move it to the U9 category as well, but they're going to, use U7 as kind of a basis. And lacrosse is, if it's not the last sport, it might be the last sport that allows contact, like at younger ages. And I think from a growth point of view in grassroots, we're the demographics of Ontario and Canada are changing, and we're attracting. Not only are we trying to attract first generation lacrosse people, we have to attract first generation Canadians to
Mhm.
put their kids into lacrosse. And quite honestly, if you come out to watch it and you see an 8-year-old get run over by an 8-year-old who's 30 pounds heavier and 3 inches taller, it doesn't help us. So really, I think that's the first step, is really trying to focus on the skill, trying to focus on the athleticism of the game. Take the contact out of the game. It's not necessary at the young ages, and there's a lot of people that really resent that argument. And I always throw this back to them. They say, "Oh, you got to have contact. You have to have it. You have to have it." And I say, Connor McDavid is probably the best hockey player in the world right now. He never had contact till he was in Bantam. He figured it out. So if we're talking about grassroots, why do we need contact in grassroots?
Right.
I get it, as kids get older and you get to rep, yeah, you introduce it, but certainly really managing the level of contact. And my friend Dave Huntley, who passed away a few years ago, and all of us think about him every day. He talked about in the U.S. where they were really trying to change field lacrosse from a collision sport to a contact sport. And you watch a college lacrosse game, and if there's any big hit, there's a flag. Like, there's no more big hits. They've really tried to take away that, guys sliding and hammering someone, and even in the NLL, the blindside hits, the vulnerable hits. Like, we're trying to take that out of the game. And I think at youth lacrosse, focusing on skill, focusing on athleticism is really, it needs to be the focus point if we want to grow it at the grassroots level. And for the reasons I said, like, there's a lot of people that aren't familiar with lacrosse, and they put their kids in the game, and they see the level of contact, and it scares them off. Everyone's worried about contact, concussions, injuries. And now we're seeing guys that are in the game, and they're saying the same thing. So imagine people who aren't in the game,
Mhm.
and they're seeing it for the first time. So really, I think that's a big push, and again, a lot of credit to those guys for pushing that forward, and I hope that that continues, because I really think that's got to be the future of youth lacrosse is non-contact. And it's like hockey. Hockey is non-contact. It doesn't mean there's not bumping and people battle for a puck. It's the same in lacrosse. Like you could have contact without having cross-checking and collisions, and that's really, I think, where the focus needs to go. And I hope this is a huge success this year, and we can really try to grow our numbers and continue with that agenda moving forward with maybe some of the older ages as well.
Allow me to try and push your point forward. I think what I'm hearing from you and what I understand from many sports is you're leveling the playing field so that the tactical side, the talent side, the ability side, the handling of the stick, the shooting, the passing, all that stuff. You're leveling the playing field where you're not making it a contest to see who's the biggest person on the mountain that can interrupt people actually learning about the game. And then later you can start introducing contact when their bodies are more ready for it as well, because that's
Exactly.
the other issue, right?
No, for sure. And I think with I having coached my kids, growing up, and I have 20-year-old twin boys, having coached them growing up, watching them play. I mean, there's lots of players that I saw that were, that didn't want to have the ball in their stick, because when you have the ball in your stick, you get hit,
Mm-hmm.
and we're conditioning kids to, I don't want the ball, right? They're happy to be the hitter. They don't want to be the hittee, right? So they're not picking the ball up. They don't want the ball. They don't contest for a ball because they're going to get hit. So yeah, and that impacts skill, and it impacts fun too. Like, it's not, part of the fun of the game is when especially when you're coaching little kids, when you see a kid pick the ball up and watch them run with the ball. Like, you see the smile on their face. They're so excited, and unfortunately, sometimes that smile is wiped out when some big kid comes and crushes them, and then they're on the ground, and the parents are freaking out. And so, there's a lot of benefits to really focusing, as you said, on the skill, and letting those kids gain confidence. And even if you get to a level where, hey, you know what, we're going to be a house league family, we're not going to be a rep family, and you get to older ages, and why do you need contact at midget house league lacrosse, right? And maybe we would attract more kids, and maybe you would be able to integrate men's and women's box lacrosse, make it co-ed, all the way through in house league, if you're not having contact, right? So, and maybe that helps grow the game with on the female side as well. So there's so many different things, I think, that can come out of that decision, and hopefully the people continue to push for that. I'm excited to watch some youth lacrosse this year to see how it changes, and I think it'll change for the better.
I think everybody understands that point, and the whole point is that contact shouldn't be between two groups or two people that are totally different size wise.
Yeah.
It just isn't. It doesn't make sense when somebody thinks about it. But I guess sometimes, that there's many of us who are guilty of loving contact, and like we watch the NLL, we love contact, right?
Yep.
But that's a different context. That's grown people who have grown into their body finally, who have
Yep.
grown into their bodies at a far different time and space, right? An amount of time. So yeah, you're 100% right. And I think the rest of us are catching on to what you're saying. And I think a lot of people, uh, I think they're doing a good job of trying to do that. And that's the important thing. And it's about education. And
Yeah.
also it's about people like yourself and people who are powerful in lacrosse, who understand the game of lacrosse, who are in it, to speak to the virtue of learning how to play the game first, and then how to play it physically, right? So
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot of great people in lacrosse that understand that point. I mean, it shows up in the officiating, right? Where you're trying to have a universal way of officiating, which makes it easier to control what you're talking about as well, I think, Ed.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you look at other sports too. Look at rugby at young ages. They're not tackling. They're playing touch. There's touch football now, and sevens flag football. Like, all these sports that are based in contact are backing away from it because they recognize the benefits of doing that. So yeah, I'm excited to see the future, and I think it's a huge part of our strategy for growth for the future. So excited to see how it works, and hopefully more and more people embrace the rationale behind it, and support it.
Absolutely. I love the idea of the co-ed too, because forever girls have gotten the short end of the stick, whether it be hockey, lacrosse, anything. Hasn't been enough to form teams. So if we're making a co-ed, they actually get a fair shake at playing the game, loving the game, enjoying the game, and from there moving on to women's leagues later on, which is terrific. I think it's a great idea. Let's move on to the NLL career. You started out as an assistant in Toronto, a pretty good run, I'd say. Four cups in 5 years. One of the questions I have, and I've asked a few, is what was it like working with Les Barkley, and what did you learn from him?
Les is another very important person in my life, and he left us far too soon, but left an indelible imprint on myself and look around the league. It's hard to look on a bench right now and not see a player either who was coached by Les or knew Les, or there was influence there. So yeah, Les was Les and I had no relationship prior to my starting with the Ontario Raiders in Hamilton, and I got in through Johnny. The team was coming to Hamilton, and I knew Johnny Meridian through Brock, and McMaster, and I reached out to Johnny and said, "Hey, I'd love to get involved," and they brought me on board. So I didn't know Les, but we worked together, and he was, he taught me a lot about managing people. And I think Les didn't get a lot of credit for X and O's, but he studied lacrosse. I used to joke about him being he was very obsessive compulsive about a lot of things, and anything that he told me the story one day that he decided he wanted to try to run a marathon. So he he started to train. He went out the first day. He ran 18 miles, right, the first day. Ended up hurting his foot. Couldn't run after that. But he wanted to play squash, so he took lessons, and he was like playing he was very obsessive about anything. He didn't want to just be good at something. He wanted to be great at it, and he spent a lot of time with Johnny. Johnny was a really smart sport coach, and was working on his master's in sports psychology. So we did some things back in those days that were pretty avant-garde, and a lot of people rolled their eyes at things we were doing in terms of visualization and team building, those type of things that people just weren't doing. And Les really embraced video, which was great. I think we were really the first team to use video. There was a lot of coaches back in those days that said, "Oh, we don't need video," and we embraced it, and we were doing things on video that people weren't weren't even thinking about. So, and that was all Les. Like Les was really forward thinking. But the thing I learned most from Les was his ability to manage people, and he was it was an interesting situation, because at work he was a union rep. Mm-hmm. And he represented his union brothers and sisters, and would fight for them with management. And then on the lacrosse side, he's on management, so he always had a unique perspective of things. And whenever we had a labor dispute, he was always, I'd be always nervous. Oh, this isn't going to work out. He was always, "Eddie, this stuff always gets sorted out. There's a solution there. There's an agreement in place, or there's an agreement there. They just have to find it." But his managing of people, and I remember what he said to me at one point. We had a meeting. We used to practice at Lake Mount in Grimsby, and we used to use the meeting room upstairs. And we were having a meeting, and it was a really good discussion. And I kind of pointed to my watch, saying, "Hey, Les, like we're running overtime, and we were cutting into our practice time." And he just kind of gave me the okay, I got it, right. And we continued on, finished what we did, and then he said to me after, he said, "Eddie, believe me, what we do up here is sometimes much more important than what we do down there." And that was, to me, was a really it was really profound, because as a lacrosse guy, I'm thinking, well, we got to get on the floor, we got to run drills, we got to go through these things. But in his mind was, no, what we're doing as a team, team building, having discussions, getting to know each other, all those type of things were more important, and that's something I've kind of carried with me and realized the benefit of developing relationships with your players. It's not I don't although players might kind of quote unquote report to me as I'm their boss. I never think of that, and Les was always great in working with guys. And the other thing is to say with Les is you could, Les could give you shit for a half hour, and you'd walk away feeling good about it. Like he had that great way of kind of like, he'd be giving it to you about something, and then you'd be thanking him. Thank you, Les. Like he was just so good with people, and that's something that I learned from Les, and I try to carry that legacy forward. As if you ask Glenn Clark and Derek Keenan and trying to think of Daryl Gibson, all these different guys, Dan Ladouceur, guys that John Tavares that went had Les. I mean, they would tell you they all carry a piece of Les with them, and something they do, and something they remember about how he impacted the teams and the success he had as a coach.
If you just joined us, we're with Ed Comeau, the coach of the Georgia Swarm in the National Lacrosse League.
So we move over. You get your first head coaching job with Rochester, and lo and behold, you win a championship there. Let's talk about that team and that championship. That was quite the team you had there.
It was a great team. I always thought that team was really on the cusp, and I went there from Toronto as an assistant coach with Paul Day, and we were always battling right with Toronto. We just kind of couldn't get over that edge, over that push over the top to get by Toronto. And in 2006, we lost in a playoff game to Buffalo. Then the next year, we started out in 2007. We started out 1-2, and certainly wasn't the greatest start of the year. And then we didn't lose a game after that. The rest of the year, we went. I think we won our next 12 or 13 games. I think it was, and then went into the playoffs, and ended up winning there. But it was, that group was really special. It was, we have the rings we got. Inside the rings, we had the saying, no borders. We had Indigenous players, we had Canadian players, and we had American players, and that was was kind of a little bit of a joke. Hey, no borders, right? We're all just lacrosse players, and it was a great group. Obviously John Grant and Sean Williams, and we had both Evvies. We had Mike Hazen got hurt that year and basically missed the whole year with a bad concussion. He was our captain, but then we had Reggie Thorpe step in as our captain, and Chris Schiller, Pat Kugavin, so many good players, so many guys that contributed huge. We picked up Billy Greer that year. He was a huge part of our success in the playoffs. We had Sandy Chapman, so many good players, and Patty O'Toole and that was outstanding all year. So it was a great group, and the disappointing thing was the next year, 2008. I mean, we went from winning a championship to not making the playoffs, and it was real disappointing. But I think it went to the whole, trying to deal with success, trying to deal with, how do we replicate that success, and we struggled with it all year. And I'd love to have a do-over in that season, because I still think we were the best team in the league, and I think if the last game of the season we played New York, which ironically I ended up in New York the next year as their head coach GM, but that if we had beaten New York that game, we would have made the playoffs, and I think we would have had a deep run in the playoffs, because we were, we were a good team. We just couldn't get out of our own way that year, and it was disappointing. But the championship year was a great year, and especially the way we ended up winning on the road. We were first overall, and we were supposed to host the championship game in Rochester, but the circus was in town, and the circus rated higher than we did, I guess, and we ended up having to go to Arizona to play in the championship game on the road, and got a big win in Arizona. So it was a great way to end the season.
Right. Now, you talked about New York. You wound up going to New York, and a couple of things. One, you win GM of the Year, which is a big kudos to you. But you also were there for when New York moved to Orlando, and I'm more interested in talking about the Florida idea for Bucks, since it would have been rather new at the time.
Yeah, it was it was interesting. Like our owner at the time he was in New York, but he had just retired from his job and he had moved out to Vail, Colorado, and he had hired Steve Donner, who Steve used to be the owner operator with the Nighthawks in Rochester before Kurt Stiers had bought the team. So, Steve had a long history in sports and in the National Lacrosse League. We did some good things there. It was, I think, I mean, I'd like to think it would have worked. And I remember one night saying to Steve, saying to him, "Man, the crowd doesn't look great." And he said to me, and it was, and I mean, Steve was the ultimate glass half full guy, right? He was a real sales guy, but he said to me, "Think of it this way: there's 4,000 people that came here. We didn't advertise. There was no radio, no TV, no print media. We didn't spend a dime on advertising, and 4,000 people found out about the game and came to watch it." And it was an interesting spin on it, right? That I think there was opportunities there, and I remember Jimmy Butler, who was our assistant GM. He was working with Team USA at the time, and he'd go back to Team USA would do a camp every January down in Florida and in Orlando, and he'd say kids would show up and they'd be wearing Titan swag, and so I think I believe there was an opportunity there for sorry, my dog's just going crazy here. There was an opportunity there for us to continue on. It just wasn't the right time, and our owner was kind of trying to divest himself of it, but I hope at some point there's a team that explores back in Florida area, because I really think I think it could go there. I mean, the lacrosse is big down there. If you pick the right market, I think there'd be a really good opportunity. So I hope to see someday that an opportunity with another team in Florida.
Right. Well, we move into Colorado as an assistant coach. Talk about a change of venue, man. The Loud House and having 15, 16,000 a game. That must have been quite the eye opener.
Yeah, Colorado was a great experience. First of all, it's such a great city. The organization's great. Steve Govett was the GM president, and Bob Henley, the head coach. I mean, we're treated very, very well out there, and really enjoyed the experience. And I tell people the story about I was coaching in Toronto, the first game ever for the Colorado Mammoth, and they came up to us before the game, and I remember Steve Govett coming up saying, "Hey, do you mind if we delay the game?" Look at him like, delay the game? What the heck for? He said, "There's so many people out front right now that we can't process the box office." Box office is used to selling a few tickets, and will call. They sold 6,000 tickets. It was like a record at the time for them at the ticket office prior to the game, and it was just backed up around the corner. So we actually delayed the start of the game for 45 minutes. We lost in overtime, and it is still the one and only time that I've ever said I felt good about losing a game in the National Lacrosse League, because you knew that it was the start of something huge in that organization. There was 12,000 people there. I think the next game they had 16,000. It was huge. So having an opportunity to go work in that organization, and Denver's such a beautiful city. It was great, and really enjoyed my time there. We struggled a bit a few years. They were kind of going through some turnover, but we were there when we drafted Dylan Ward, so I got to see Dylan Ward as a rookie, and we had Adam Jones and Danny Coates and Cam Holding, so many players that were great players that had some of them still playing and long careers in our league. So it was great, great organization, and they treated myself and my family really well there. Obviously didn't end great, but sometimes in sports you got to make changes, and but we definitely, when we left on good terms, and it was again great experience to be part of that group.
Right.
Winning is sweetened by previous losses. How much fun would it be to win if you always won?
Yeah, very true, very true. My wife says to me all the time, "Well, you can't win every game." And I said, "Why? Who says you can't win every game? Who says that? I want to win every game." So yes, but I know reality sets in sometimes, and you have to deal with the losses for sure. So.
Right.
Obviously, the smart person behind the guy.
Yes.
So we go to the Swarm. We go to Georgia now. And 2015, you join. The team went through some turmoil, leaving Minnesota, coming to Georgia, trying to get a fan base there, which again was another interesting thing. And it's starting to click on now. Now you're starting to get the crowds a few years later. I want to talk more about the 2017 Magic year. I happened to be in Saskatchewan for that overtime goal. The play I want to talk about actually is the last play of regulation and everything that went into that to tie it up to send overtime. To me, it was just a great gamble, and it was a terrific play.
Yeah, we had actually, and it's funny, Jordan McIntosh, I remember at the press conference after, he was like, someone asked him about it, and he said, we actually practiced that in shoot around, which we did. And, I mean, one of the advantages sometimes of coaching against guys you spend a lot of time with is, you kind of know what they're going to do and they know what you're going to do. But so, we knew, and when we knew we were going to press, we were going to pull our goalie, and we were going to press, and we had a good feeling they were going to pull their goalie. So we were prepared for that, and we practiced it, and as much as we practiced it, it's like a lot of things like that. You're throwing a Hail Mary pass up is something's got to click, or someone's got to do something wrong, and in our situation, it was Jeremy Thompson had the ball. He bounced the ball to Chris Corbeil. It just, a pass that you normally catch, and Chris turned, it popped out of his stick, and we jumped on it and ended up. I mean, the funny thing about it was Joel White joked about it, and he said the first thing I did was when I got the ball, because I think Colsey picked the ball up past the Joel White. First thing I did is I looked for Lyle. I give it the ball to Lyle. Lyle shoots it, and his brother Jeremy makes the save, and it pops into Joel White's stick, and he puts it in the net. So it was kind of funny, and at that point, I think back about those. I think I forget how many seconds were left in the game when that all came down. I think we scored with 1 second left, but it really, if we don't win that game, we go back to game 3 in Georgia. I mean, it could have been a different outcome. They were a pretty veteran team, but I mean, our team was, I think, we weren't the favorites, but in our minds, we were the favorites. And I think if you look at those games, I mean, that was, people talked about that being one of the greatest defenses of all time. And, we scored a lot of goals in those 2 games against them. And our offense, might have been one of the greatest offenses of all time in that era. And it was great to see really how our guys really just persevered, and, great group of guys, and really magical. And it would have been great to be able to kind of continue and do that again the next year. I give credit to the teams that repeat in this league, because it's hard to do, and sometimes the stars have to align for you to come back, and that next year we just I thought we were still really good, but we just didn't have that killer instinct that we had the year before.
Right. That overtime goal also happened. I was sitting just inside the restraining line. So basically, Miles to Lyle, boom, and there it was right in front of me. It was great. I want to talk about this year, because this year is a tale of 2 seasons for you. You guys had a terrible schedule to start with. I think you played 5 games in the first 2 months, which was crazy, including a couple of double bye weeks. And you started out 0-7. And to your credit, nobody lost faith, nobody lost hope. And you've put together 7 of the last 8 victories, and you're sitting in 4th in the East in a playoff spot. Let's just talk about the team and the heart of your team, because it's showing a tremendous amount of heart. And it's one of the teams I don't think anybody in the East wants to face come playoff time if you get, because just that heart of a lion.
Yeah, our group's been really good. It was, when we were 0-7, it would have been pretty easy for us as an organization and us as a team just to say, okay, hey, we gave it the old college try here. Let's kind of fold this up and let's focus on, the off season or next year. But, to credit of everyone on the team and the organization, like we all believe that we could really come back and put ourselves in the mix, and whether how that would look, we didn't know at the time, and we still don't know now, but we kind of said, let's focus on 1 week at a time. Let's believe that we can make this happen. And really, I think, people talk about, what the difference is, and I say it's not, it's hard to point out one thing. There's so many good things. Our goaltending's been better. Our defense has been great. Our offense has been great. Our special teams have been very good. Like, so many things have clicked for us. But I think the biggest thing is just the belief that, hey, we can, we're good enough that we can do this. And there was a lot of people that had written us off, and I said to our guys, some of the people that wrote us off are the same people that are singing our praises now. And I said, so we gotta focus on the group of individuals in our room that believe that we could get ourselves back in the hunt. And we did say too, like, this isn't a magic pill here that we're gonna snap our fingers and put ourselves in the playoff race. It's gonna take a lot of work. It's gonna take a lot of time. And we said, like, we were. And I said to someone the other day, they asked me about, your team's, in the playoff picture. I said, last year we were in the playoffs the last 6 weeks of the season until the final goal in overtime, and we were out of the playoffs. So I said, we're not, we don't want to talk about being in the playoffs until, 9 o'clock, April 29th, and we'll worry about where we land at that point. So that's, our focus is each and every week. And, we've also talked about that, in order to get to the playoffs, we basically have to play like we're in the playoffs right now. We don't have a safety net like, San Diego and Calgary have, or Toronto and Buffalo. Like, we can't afford those hiccups. So for us, we have to play with that sense of urgency each and every shift. And again, our guys have been outstanding. We've played really well and really, believing in each other, and that's been a huge factor for us these last 8 weeks.
Right. Just before we end, because this flew by like this, I just want to talk a bit about Team Canada, because you've been with the program, of box program anyways, since its inception in 2002. We got the Worlds coming up. You've been through Worlds, Heritage Cup, national teams, everything. Let's just talk a little bit about the Canadian program and what we're going to be expecting in the next little while.
Well, I think there's supposed to be an official announcement about where the games are going to be in 2024. I believe it'll be in September of 2024. So that announcement, there's been all over the media about being in Utica. I think there'll be some official announcement, I believe, on location and in time in the next little bit. And and for us, we're the number one box lacrosse nation in the world, and we've been very fortunate and very successful, and that comes from putting together a good team. And 2002, the national team program has lost one game in these 21 years, and that one game was in 2002, and it was a great lesson for us. And Les Bartley was head coach. I was helping him, and we picked a team, based on the team that people thought we should pick. And we didn't pick a team. We picked a team of all-stars. And I remember running into Ron McSpadden. It was at the Hershey Center in Mississauga, and Ron McSpadden said, "Man, this is an all-star team you've got." And I said, "Yeah, the only problem is this isn't an all-star game." And no truer words were spoken. We were down 8-0 very quickly in the game to the U.S. And that was really lost, but it was a great loss. And as you said earlier, Frank, about losses being learning from them, we learned from that, and we said, never again will we pick an all-star team, and we have to make tough decisions when we pick a team. You only need so many righty scorers, you only need so many lefty scorers, you only need 3 goalies. So we have to make tough decisions sometimes with the national team. But I think from that experience we had in the Heritage Cup in 2002, we've really stayed true to that. And we pick a team. And some people question and say, "Oh, how come you didn't pick this guy or that guy?" And there's a lot of factors that go into it. But we trust our coaches, and as general manager of the team, we'll be announcing our coaches and coaching staff shortly. And they put a lot of time into it. It's not just show up and roll the balls out. We spend a lot of time talking about different players, and there's so many good players that we're very fortunate. we could send 2 teams to the World Championships, and both teams would do very well. But that also comes with a lot of pressure to make sure we pick the right guys. So, yeah, it's exciting. We're looking forward to it, and I think this year too they're going to be announcing a women's World Box Lacrosse Championship, kind of running in conjunction with that. So it'll be kind of cool to see that and kind of be part of that experience. So yeah, it's exciting, and yeah, it's a great honor to be involved with the national team, and it's an honor that all of us that are involved we take very seriously, and we also we not only want to win, everyone wants to win, but we want to represent not only Canada, but we want to represent lacrosse, and I think that's something we've always built into our program, really trying to embrace the event and really try to share our knowledge. We've done stuff with Switzerland in the past. We did stuff with Austria the last time. I know in the field stuff we've done different practices with so many different countries, and we really think it's really important for us to kind of full circle back to helping grow the game. We can talk about growing it domestically here, but internationally, it's also something that we can really help with, and we take that serious.
Thanks for this. We're out of time. Gary, give you a couple of seconds.
Sure. And I just want to say congratulations so far and all the best of luck. You've got Albany this weekend, so let's see how we do. And I'm really looking forward to you guys finishing fourth, maybe Toronto finishing first, and we'll see you here in Hamilton. So best of luck, and thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you for this. For Ed Comeau and Gary Groob, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk. Seen live Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Lacrosse Talk news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. You can also check out the programming that I do on Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube, and hope to catch you there. And of course, don't forget Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time.